2,000 soldiers, dead. Not Russian soldiers, not Ukrainian soldiers, North Korean soldiers. Young men who crossed the globe in secret, were handed Russian weapons, and were sent into the meat grinder of the most brutal land war Europe has seen in 80 years. And this week, Jong Un built them a museum. What's happening right now between Russia and North Korea is not just a side story of the Ukraine war. It is the story. And if you don't understand it, you don't understand where this war is heading. Stay with me, because this is bigger than most people realize. Today, we're breaking down one of the most significant developments in the Russia-Ukraine war in months, the North Korea-Russia military alliance, what just happened in Pyongyang, what it means on the battlefield, and, most importantly, what comes next. Let's get into it. On April 26, 2026, something happened in the North Korean capital of Pyongyang that would have seemed completely insane just 4 years ago. North Korea opened a war museum, not for some distant Cold War conflict, not for the Korean War of the 1950s, a museum for soldiers killed fighting right now, in Ukraine. The official name is the Memorial Museum of Combat Feats at the Overseas Military Operations, and it was inaugurated with full ceremony, state media, military honors, and flowers laid on the remains of fallen soldiers. Jong Un attended personally. So did Russia's Defense Minister Andrei Belousov and the Speaker of the Russian Parliament, Vyacheslav Volodin. Kim sprinkled earth over the remains of one soldier. He laid flowers for others. In his speech, he called the fallen troops a symbol of the Korean people's heroism. He said their sacrifice thwarted, quote, the United States and the West's hegemonic ambitions. And Putin? He sent a personal letter, read aloud at the ceremony, calling the museum a symbol of the friendship and solidarity between Russia and North Korea. This wasn't a quiet diplomatic event. This was a declaration. Russia and North Korea are not hiding this relationship anymore. They are celebrating it. So who were these soldiers and what were they actually doing in Ukraine? Let's go back to 2024.
Если ранее мы команды определенные подавали жестами, то сейчас уже выучили команды на корейском языке, и, соответственно, уже наши инструкторы подсказывают именно на корейском языке.
Ukrainian forces launched a surprise cross-border incursion into Russia's Kursk region, a bold and unexpected move that caught Moscow completely off guard. Russia needed bodies, fast, so they called Pyongyang. According to South Korea's intelligence agency, North Korea deployed approximately 15,000 soldiers into the Kursk region to fight alongside Russian forces. These were not advisors. These were not trainers. These were frontline combatants. The results were brutal at first. Ukrainian military officials reported that in the early weeks, North Korean troops suffered catastrophic losses. They had no experience with modern drone warfare. They didn't know the terrain. They couldn't read the battlefield. Accounts from the front described men walking into drone strikes in tight groups, the way soldiers might have a century ago. They were wiped out in significant numbers before they even understood what was hitting them. South Korea's intelligence estimated around 2,000 North Korean soldiers were killed. Russia and North Korea have never confirmed any figures. But here's the twist, and this is important. Ukrainian commanders later admitted that the North Koreans adapted. They learned. Fast. By the time Russian and North Korean forces declared the Kursk operation complete in April 2025, the North Koreans had become a legitimate fighting force, experienced, battle-hardened, and now loyal to the alliance. Jong Un didn't just send soldiers to help Russia, he sent soldiers to train them for the next war.
Дисциплинированные, слаженные, отзывчивые, легко все понимают.
Разность языков даже не мешает?
Нет, разность языков нас не мешает. Нормально уже понимаем немножко друг друга. То есть работаем нормально, хорошо.
Now here's where this gets much, much bigger than Ukraine. At the museum ceremony, Russia's Defense Minister Belousov made an announcement that most Western media barely covered. He said Russia and North Korea are preparing to sign a military cooperation plan covering the years 2027 to 2031. Let that sink in. 2027 to 2031. This is not a wartime emergency deal. This is a long-term institutional military alliance being formalized between two nuclear-armed states. Analysts were quick to point out the significance. Professor Lim Yul-chul from Kyongnam University said this 5-year plan, quote, points to preparations for the post-Ukraine war period and suggests the alliance will continue even if the war ends, entering the stage of an institutional alliance. So what does North Korea get out of this? Analysts believe the exchange works like this. North Korea provides manpower and conventional weapons, artillery shells, missiles, troops. Russia provides economic support, food, energy, and possibly the most dangerous currency of all, advanced military technology. South Korea, the United States, and their allies are specifically worried that Russia is transferring sensitive know-how that could advance North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Think about that. North Korea already has nuclear weapons. If Russia hands over advanced guidance systems, submarine technology, or re-entry vehicle designs, the security implications go far beyond Ukraine. We could be watching the birth of the most dangerous military partnership on Earth right now, in real time, while the world is focused on drone footage from Bakhmut. Let's zoom back into Ukraine, because the battlefield picture right now is just as significant. As of late April 2026, here is the state of the war. Russia has been losing ground, slowly but consistently. According to data from the Institute for the Study of War, Russian forces suffered a net loss of 26 square miles of Ukrainian territory over the past 4 weeks alone. That's after 3 years of bloody fighting. But net loss is a complicated term, because on the ground, Russian forces are still pressing forward. In just the past week, they advanced near 10 distinct Ukrainian settlements, grinding through towns most of the world has never heard of: Bryansk, Novoalexandrivka, Pokrovsk. The war has become a war of attrition, and the numbers are staggering. Russian military casualties, killed and wounded, are now estimated by multiple Western intelligence sources at over 1 million. 1 million. That's not a typo. Ukrainian casualties are estimated at 250,000 to 300,000 killed and wounded. Russia has occupied the equivalent of a territory slightly bigger than the state of Rhode Island over the past 12 months. And yet, the war continues. Why? Because despite the losses, Russia keeps sending men. It keeps launching drones. Just last week, Russia launched over 600 drones and 47 missiles in a single assault targeting 8 Ukrainian regions. Ukraine, meanwhile, is fighting to keep the lights on, literally. Energy experts say the country will only be able to restore 30 to 40% of its electrical capacity before next winter. This is not a war with a clear end in sight. Both sides are exhausted, but only one side has North Korea building it a new army. So where does this go from here? Let me give you 3 scenarios. Scenario 1. A ceasefire that changes nothing. Recent polling data shows 64% of Russians support peace negotiations, and 61% of Ukrainians say they would accept territorial compromises to end the war. There is exhaustion on both sides. A negotiated ceasefire, likely along current front lines with Russia keeping occupied territories, is increasingly discussed. But here's the problem. Even if there's a ceasefire, the Russia-North Korea alliance doesn't go away. The 2027 to 2031 military cooperation plan proceeds. North Korea goes home with battlefield experience and Russian technology. The world becomes more dangerous the morning after the war ends. Scenario 2. Escalation. Russia could push for one more major offensive, leveraging fresh North Korean-trained troops and a resupplied army to try to break Ukrainian defenses before any peace deal locks in current lines. Ukraine's energy situation makes it increasingly vulnerable heading into another winter. Scenario 3. A wider crisis. The most dangerous scenario, and the one experts are most concerned about, is if Russia's technology transfers to North Korea provoke a reaction from South Korea, Japan, or the United States in the Pacific. The Ukraine war could, in this scenario, be the spark for instability thousands of miles away. Jong Un just opened a war museum, but he's not thinking about museums. He's thinking about the next war, and he just got a crash course in how to fight one. Here's the bottom line. The Russia-Ukraine war has always been about more than Ukraine. From day one, it has been a test of whether the current international order can hold, whether borders mean anything, whether one country can invade another and simply keep the land. But what we're now seeing is something new. The war is producing alliances, dark alliances, that will outlast the conflict itself. 2,000 young North Korean men are dead. They died in trenches in a country whose language they didn't speak, for a war whose politics they were never allowed to question. And their leader just built them a museum, not to mourn them, but to celebrate what they started. The Russia-North Korea alliance is real. It is growing, and it is one of the most important stories in the world right now. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what's happening, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. Subscribe if you're new, because we cover this stuff every week, and you don't want to miss what comes next. I'll see you in the next one.